Well, I had said I was going to do this some time back, and I in no way want to imply that I understand everything about the culture and our ceremonies and traditions. But I do know that the records put in the Western history books depicting us as godless heathen pagans who worshiped idols was wrong. And one of our elders was challenged one time. He said, "Well, your people worship the sun, the moon, and the stars, and the earth, and water, and the drum, and the pipe." And the elder stopped him and said, "That's not true." He said, "These items, these things were given to us as gifts, the sun and moon, and the stars, and the fire, and the drum, and the flute, all of these things, so that in any of these practices, we recognize the fact that these came as gifts from the Creator." One of the things was said that when they came into our dwellings, they said it stunk. And I want to show you something we did in our dwellings so that you can see for yourself. Of course, you can't smell it. And I shake enough where it's hard for me to get this going the way that it should. I will hold this up so you can see it. And what I'm doing here is burning some sage. And once the fire is out, it'll smolder for some time. And we burnt sage and sweetgrass and uh, tobacco and cedar in our homes because we felt that there was some positive reactions in using this. One thing that Western science has discovered that in the burning of sage in a home purifies the air. It also keeps the creeping things and the vermin out because they don't like it. And we like to use an eagle feather to do this. And this feather was gifted to me by a young woman who was sitting in the edge of this field and watching an eagle nearby in the top of a tree. And when the eagle left the tree and flew towards her, over her, the eagle dropped this feather. And she said that as the feather fell, she heard my name. Now, this young woman lived over near Bay City, and she had to come quite a distance to bring this feather to me, but she felt it important enough to do that. And so in our teachings, the eagle feather was never given to anyone but those who had exploits in which they were honored by the tribe. And I'm waving this smoke away. I'll set this over here. And so she brought that feather and told me the story, wanting to honor me and follow through with who she believed that feather belonged to. I have another eagle feather in one of my hats that a man found on a beaver dam down in Missouri. And when he found that eagle feather, he said, thought to himself, this belongs to Warren. And so he brought it to me. And I am honored to have that eagle feather in my hat. I want to show you something else. This is a beautiful beaded piece that was gifted to me when Barbara and I were invited to attend a ceremony in Bay Center, Washington, on the Pacific Ocean, when a member of the Lewis and Clark family, the Clark family, found out that when they left the West Coast, they had stole a Jimon or canoe from the tribe. And their particular vessels they will seat 30 people or more. And they were ocean going. And so this woman, this member of the Clark family, hired a canoe builder in Seattle, Washington, to build this canoe. And she paid a large sum to have that canoe built. And they wanted us, Barbara and I, to come as representatives from the North to this ceremony where this canoe was returned to the tribe, the Chinook tribe. And it was a great time because there were members from many tribes around there that came to this feast. And one of the things that was most impressive, that when Barbara and I showed up, there were those tribal members from the Chinook tribe that came and greeted us, and they took care of us from that moment on, brought seating for us and brought water for us, and they brought food to us, and they treated us like an old grandma and grandpa come home. And the thing that struck me was that's the way all our tribes used to be. And it was so good to see that again, that there were those tribes that kept that recognition alive of elders. And during or just before the ceremony, a man who sat on the tribal council, I believe his name is Jeremy, came to me, and he was one of the people that took care of us, and many, many people spoke with us from the tribe, and he presented this beaded piece to me, and he explained that he was a counselor in the federal penal system there, and he worked with an elder from one of the tribes who was doing life. And this man beaded, and he was a native man, beaded to pass his time. And he gave him that piece, and he said, give that to somebody at the salmon ceremony. And Jeremy asked him, he said, who will I give it to? And he said, you'll know him when you see him. And he presented me with that gift from Old Bear. And I wear this often, and I was asked to pray for Old Bear whenever I wore it. And I continue to do that. And to me, it's such an honor to have such a gift in my life. Out of all of this and some other things I'm going to share with you, I came to realize that once I turned my life over to the Creator and submitted to whatever He intended for my life and recognized Him as having all power and control, some things begin to happen. Barbara and I used to travel addressing historical trauma in the boarding schools, and at one time, among a few others, I was considered an expert in the field of tribal history, treaty history, and the boarding schools and reserve schools. And we were asked to come and speak in many places. And during these events, sometimes I would play the flute, or sometimes I would play the guitar and sing a song, or play the flute. And people would come up and say, "Where is your CD? I want a copy of your CD." And I told them I never thought about making a CD. And one time in a conversation, there was a man behind us that heard it, and he said, "I have a sound studio," and he said, "I will record you and edit it and dub those songs and publish them, and you pay me as you go." And 5 of us, my grandson, Andrew Petoskey, myself, Jim Wixon, Melissa Wixon, and Jim Tobin, went to Jim Tobin's studio. He was the sound tech, and he also participated in a couple of the songs. And we had never. Hello. Well, I've got to stop. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Did you work hard today?
Yeah, it's pretty crappy outside.
Oh, yeah, I know it. Well, it took her a little bit this morning before she got over pouting. Then we played and had a good time together.
Right.
You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there.
All right, buddy.
Love you.
I love you too. You take care. Have a good day. My grandson just came in and picked up his dog. But 5 of us went to the studio. We never practiced beforehand. And neither my grandson nor I can read music. And we sat down and we recorded 12 songs on a CD. And we only had one small portion that was a do-over that the sound tech patched in, where my grandson felt that his guitar picking was not up to snuff, and so he wanted to do that over. I began to sell copies. I think I only asked maybe $10 a piece or something, but the copies went fairly quickly. And I heard about a man who was the director over the Native American radio programs, and he controlled the music on 68 native stations. And I contacted him and asked him if he would consider putting my first CD on his playlist. And he said, well, I would have to hear it first. So I sent him a copy of the CD, and he contacted me back and told me that it had been added to the playlist on Indian radio. Then we went back to the studio later and we did another CD, and again didn't practice. We smudged the studio down and prayed. And we did the second CD, and I contacted the director of Native Radio again. And he told me, he says, I don't need to hear it. He said, just send it to me and we're going to add it to our playlist. So a few of those songs are on YouTube now under my name. But what those songs contain, some of them, is my poetry done to music. And most will tell you that my poetry is a little bit different, but when I played a song at home with my guitar and my wife heard it, she said, you need to record that. Now, me having no professional background at all was a little surprised, and I realized some of it had to do with the sound tech who did a good job organizing the music and the background sound and added synthesizer sounds to it, and they came out real well. And what I did was I had heard that you could do songs in 3 chords. And so I wanted to keep the music simple because to me it would be better characterize who I am because I'm just a simple man. The reason I'm sharing this is because the Creator let me know that it was Him that helped this to happen, had nothing to do with me. And now I would like to share with you a flute that was gifted to me. You can see the really nice turquoise buttons in it. And in the old way, when a flute was made, this has an extension on it, but when it was made, a man would clean out a tube, and the size of his fist up to his knuckle, he would put a hole, and the next hole would go a finger up, and the next hole a finger up, and the next hole a finger up, and so forth, all the way up the flute. And then a baffle was in the flute and an air chamber back here. So you blow in the flute and the air passes over through the reed and out the tube, and that's where the sound comes from. Now I have tremors, and so I don't play anywhere near like I used to, but I want to do a little slight rendition of what this flute sounds like and then share another story with you. And the flute was, and nearly everyone in the tribe had one, and especially young men. But the flute was a way of praying. There were no notes. Now they key the flutes. We have F chord and G chord and C chord flutes. And we have several different types of product that the flute's made from. Originally, the majority of flutes were made in the Southwest from red cedar. And I love the Navajo story that tells about the origin of the flute. That there was a baby placed in a reed, and in those days the reeds were huge in circumference and hollow in the center. And the village was being attacked, and so they put this baby in this hollow reed, his mother did, and tied the ends together and weighted it in the center so that it would stay upright and afloat. And she put breathing holes in it, and it is said that the wind blew through that reed, and it sounded like a flute. And after the baby came ashore or was rescued, some had heard the flute, and they collected reeds like the material that was in the raft, and they made flutes from that and duplicated the sound, and then eventually it went to cutting red cedar, so because it would last longer, for one thing, and red cedar has a resonance to it that is unparalleled, pretty near. In the southeast, they made flutes from sugarcane, hollow sugarcane stems, and they have beautiful sound to them. But it's amazing to me how many of our people before the Chimukman, the Long Knives came, had flutes. And I used to joke with my great auntie. I said, "Auntie, had I been a young man back in the day when you were 20 or 25 years old," I said, "I would have played my flute for you." And she used to say, "Oh, cut that out." And it was kind of a way to just respect her. But young boys would sit in the woods, and especially if they were attracted to a young woman in the tribe, and they would play their flute for them. And if the woman wasn't interested and didn't care for the music, there was a way of letting the young man know. But when a young man played the flute near one of the wigwams or teepees or wickiups or whatever the dwelling was, the kiva, it was pretty serious. And I always liked the stories around it, which, of course, when the Chukman first came and began to study us, they didn't understand that, and they didn't ask any questions, and so they made up their own mind what the flute was about. I want to share one other story with you before I close, or two maybe, that before I close this out. I would like to have you see this. This is a piece of pipe that comes from a quarry in Minnesota. And this is part of what is my personal pipe. And I keep this, and on a few occasions have smoked it. I created the reed to this pipe with my own colors added. And when I heard about it, one of my friends was going out to Pipestone, I said, "Chris, while you're out there," I said, "I must send some money with you." I said, "If you would pick me up a blank, Pipestone blank, I want my own pipe." And so when they went to the Pipestone quarry, there was a Lakota man and woman who take care of that, and they control what comes out of the quarry. And Chris shared with him that he wanted to get a blank for an elder, tribal elder back in Michigan. And the owner of the quarry says, "What's his name?" And Chris said, Warren Petoskey. And he said, there's no charge for this blank. He said, it's my honor to be able to present that to Warren Petoskey. And so we got the blank back. I had no clue how to form the stone. And you can see the beautiful eagle caricature on the front and how the mane of the eagle's head comes back. And a friend of ours said, if you would allow me to, Lisa Parrish said, if you would allow me to, I will take that and I will make a bowl and a piece for the end of the pipe. And that's what she created and honored me with that. The last thing I want to show you today is a beaded band that was given to me, excuse my shaking, by some friends, some twins from Louisiana, and they're Cherokee and Choctaw twins, look-alike twins. And they gave that to me, and that is some of the colors and designs from the Choctaw people in Louisiana. And I was honored to have that. And in 2009, a man attended the unveiling of the statue to my great-great-grandfather, Bidosige, English version, Ignatius Petoskey. And he came up to me and he said, I've read some of the articles that you've written. And he said, I really enjoy them. And he said, if you'd be comfortable with it, would you send me some more samples of your writing? And I did. And 2 weeks later, he contacted me and he said, I have a journalist here who will work with you pro bono to get your book written, get the book written. People need to read your story. And so Dancing My Dream came out and to date has sold almost 1,300 copies and has traveled around the world to India and Africa, South America and the Philippines, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. And I feel very humbled by the fact that something like that would come out that way and expand to the places it's expanded to. But then I came to realize that when I turned my life over to the Creator, when I really came to realize that He had complete control, and He still does, no matter how circumstances appear. But when I turn my life over to Him, all these things begin to happen. And today, I'm a blessed man. And I enjoy these things because they're my culture. And I found out, even though I had been told in the history books that it was idolatry, I found out that it wasn't. To the tribal people, it's our way of worship, as in our powwows and our dancing, and all the sounds, the singing. Sometimes in the evening you can hear the flute playing as the sun falls in the western sky to remind us of who we are and who our ancestors are and the beautiful culture we came from. I had to make choices all through my life. As I left after we integrated a small southeastern town and then moved to the city, and I graduated from a high school in the city, but there were things missing in my life, and I could feel it inside, and I wanted them back. And all of these things began to develop. I asked the Creator to help me find these things that belong to me. And so now I do what I do. I appreciate everyone. I love everybody. And I ask the Creator to bless these things that I've shared to your hearing in the name of Jesus Christ.